That was 6ix9ine and his girlfriend Ariella Lang Costa just vibing, right before she was killed. Since her death clips have surfaced, but now a disturbing new video has dropped, it shows her final moments. And even worse, it proves she was being tailed. By who? Nobody knows. Ariella wasn't just a name in the headlines. She was a mother, a model, an influencer, and the one woman many believed stayed by Tekashi's side through everything. The betrayals, the trials, the chaos. But just hours before, she was gunned. Down new footage leaked, and what it shows is chilling. Ariella looking over her shoulder, knowing she was being watched, knowing the danger was closing in, and yet, no one saved her. Think about that. A rising star with nearly 1 million followers online, but when it mattered most, she was alone, parked in silence, staring down the end of her story. Media's already reducing her to just a Tekashi side character. But this wasn't just about him. This is about the pattern of violence that follows 6ix9ine and how the people closest to him keep paying the price. When the news broke, the internet pointed fingers fast. Some said Tekashi himself brought the bloodshed. Others believe she was caught. In a crossfire, she could never escape either way. Ariella's death is more than a tragedy. It's a warning. Being close to 6ix9ine might be the most dangerous place in hip-hop.
And what I'm seeing in the comments and what people were saying that it got something to do with 6ix9ine. How can you automatically just say that?
Tekashi 6ix9ine isn't just another rapper. He's the lightning rod of hip-hop, a man who built an empire on trolling, betrayal, and controversy. But when you live like that, it's not just you in danger. The people you love get caught in the line of fire. Ariella Lang Costa wasn't just an Instagram model. She was a Dominican beauty with nearly 700,000 followers. A mother, a hustler who worked nights in New York's clubs, built her own brand and turned heads in every room she entered. She had presence, energy, and charisma. And more than that, she was tied to Tekashi in ways most fans never understood. She appeared in his videos. She stood by him when almost no one else did. She was part of his story. And when she was killed, Tekashi's response didn't sound like a casual tribute. His words sounded broken. Instagram, he called her my wife and a tremendous woman, saying, "You supported me in everything. New York won't ever be the same." Warning signs were already there. Before her death, disturbing clips surfaced, shaky footage of Ariella looking paranoid, glancing over her shoulder like she knew someone was following her. While the internet argued about Tekashi's reputation, Ariella was the one paying the ultimate price. It's chilling when you remember Valentine's Day, that infamous post where Ariella joked about Tekashi teasing him in a way only someone truly close could. Now that playful moment feels like a ghost, a memory of a woman who may have been doomed simply for being too close to the most hated man in hip-hop.
Things got pretty crazy the other day on Valentine's when 6ix9ine's girlfriend, she put out a goddamn statement basically calling 6ix9ine a rat and laughing at it. She goes, "I always knew you were a rat. I'm just playing. Happy Valentine's Day, babe."
On the surface, it looked like a joke. But in Tekashi's world, jokes can be just as dangerous as truth. That Valentine's post wasn't just Ariella teasing her man. It was a dagger twisted in the side of a hip-hop community that still hasn't forgiven Tekashi for breaking the code of the streets. 6ix9ine didn't just snitch. He embraced it. He branded it. He laughed about it. He wore it like armor. And when Ariella joined in on that mockery, she may as well have painted a target on her back. Even in death, Ariella is being defined by the men around her. Headlines label her as 6ix9ine's girlfriend, like her whole identity existed only in his shadow. When Cardi B posted her tribute, it forced the world to see her differently. Cardi mourned Ariella with a photo and 3 words: "Rest in peace, Dominican pretty." That wasn't just a compliment. It was recognition. A reminder that Ariella had her own presence, her own light, her own influence that stretched beyond Tekashi's. Rainbow-colored shadow. That's what makes her death sting even more. Ariella represented possibility proof that someone close to Tekashi could step out and build their own lane. All of that ended in an instant, erased in a hail of bullets on a Bronx roadside. The moment Ariella's death hit the headlines, the internet exploded with theories, and almost every single one pointed back to the same man, Tekashi 6ix9ine. No evidence, no charges, not even official suspects, but in the court of public opinion, Tekashi was guilty from day one. One of the loudest theories? Ariella wasn't killed for what she did. She was killed because she was Tekashi's weak spot. 6ix9ine has always projected invincibility, flaunting his security, trolling enemies, laughing at death threats, but Ariella didn't have that same shield. No ex-military bodyguards, no gated compounds, she was accessible. And in the world of gang retaliation, hitting someone vulnerable is the fastest way to send a
message.
But we cannot go on the internet and just say that she died over a rat, over a master splinter, over a cheese eater.
Another conspiracy theory suggests Ariella's own social media may have played a role in her death. With nearly 700,000 followers, every move she made was visible. Her Instagram stories, her posts, her check-ins, they all painted a digital map of her life. And for enemies looking to track her down, that was all they needed. Remember that Valentine's Day post mocking Tekashi as a snitch? What if it wasn't just a joke? What if that was the tipping point? To many, it looked like Ariella wasn't just standing by him, she was doubling down, laughing at the very thing that put a permanent target on his back. In the twisted world of street politics that made her guilty by association. Then there's the third theory, the one that feels ripped straight out of a Netflix documentary. According to whispers in New York, Ariella's death wasn't about her relationship with Tekashi at all. It was about the people Tekashi betrayed. 6ix9ine's testimony didn't just take down random names, it dismantled pieces of the Nine. Trey Blood's families destroyed reputations, ruined. Entire operations compromised, all because one man decided his freedom was worth more than the code of the streets. So, the theory goes, Ariella wasn't killed because of who she was dating now. She was killed as retribution for the past, a delayed payback, a symbolic strike against the man who dared to snitch and walk free.
Let me put this in perspective and really follow me here. Imagine I would have stood tall, right? Kept it real, did the 47 years right now. You guys would move on with your life. You're not checking on my mom. You're not paying nothing for my daughter. You're not doing anything for me.
Those words, cold, unapologetic, prove just how personal Tekashi's snitching really was. He wasn't thinking about loyalty, community, or family. He was thinking about himself. And in the world of gangs, that kind of selfishness doesn't just disappear. When you walk free, it lingers, it festers, it demands repayment. Some even believe Ariella's murder could have been an inside job. The theory goes that someone close to her, someone she trusted, was the one who set her up. Why? Because Tekashi has enemies everywhere. Money talks, loyalty is thin, and if Ariella was moving in the same circles as his rivals, it wouldn't have taken much for someone to betray her location. That final video of Ariella sitting in her car looking paranoid, could it have been her realizing exactly that? That someone in her inner circle wasn't who they seemed? That betrayal was closing in, and she couldn't escape it. And then comes the final, most unsettling theory. What if Ariella's death wasn't about gangs retaliation or Tekashi himself? What if it was about the industry? Pop has always had a shadow side. Behind the glitz and platinum plaques are whispers of labels pulling strings, executives exploiting scandals and tragedies being turned into profit, and Ariella Young beautiful. And tied to one of the most infamous rappers alive was a story waiting to be told, killing her and letting her footage leak at the same time. That guaranteed a media frenzy, guaranteed clicks, views, headlines, guaranteed that Tekashi's name, love him or hate him, would dominate the culture once again. In that sense, Ariella doesn't just become a victim, she becomes a product. Another name.
Because look, before I even got locked up, they were sleeping with my girl. So right now, I don't know what's the situation between you guys. You have a girl, that's your friend. Would you sleep with his girl?
Hell no.
But why not?
Would.
But
You
why?
wouldn't?
No,
No, of course
no,
not.
no. But
Nah,
why?
you
No,
don't think she's hot?
But why not?
That cycle, betrayal, breeding betrayal, created the very world Ariella stepped into when she chose to be with him. A world where every smile had a knife behind it, where every laugh could end in gunfire, where every loved one could become collateral. Whether you believe these theories or not, one thing is undeniable. Ariella's death doesn't feel random. Too many enemies, too many connections, too many signs pointing to something deeper than coincidence. And when you watch that last footage, when you see the fear in her eyes, you can't help but wonder, did she already know? Did she sense which theory was true? Did she know who was coming for her? Did she know Tekashi's world had already sealed her fate? If there's one thing, Tekashi 6ix9ine never learned it's when to shut up. His entire brand has always been built on one thing, running his mouth louder than anyone else in the room. He didn't just rap aggressively, he lived aggressively. He wasn't satisfied with success. He wanted to shove it in his enemies' faces. That loud mouth, that trolling, that refusal to ever let things go. It was gasoline on every fire. It kept every beef burning. And it may have cost Ariella her life because every conspiracy points in the same direction. Tekashi is a man haunted by a past that won't let him go. And Ariella's death proves something chilling. His enemies don't need to hit him directly. They can strike at the people around him. They can hurt his heart instead of his body. And in Tekashi's world, that's often more devastating. But to understand why he became such a target, you have to go back. It all started with 6ix9ine. Tekashi wasn't born into that gang. He wasn't raised in the cold. He stepped into it as an outsider, a rainbow-haired kid from Brooklyn desperate for credibility. He found it with the 6ix9ine Bloods who saw dollar signs in him. Together, they created a persona, Tekashi 6ix9ine. The wild, aggressive, untouchable rapper who shouted, "Test my gangster!" at every turn. But when the feds came knocking, Tekashi flipped. He testified, he named names. He became the face of betrayal in hip-hop. And even though he tried to justify it, even though he claimed he was betrayed, first the I. Streets don't care about excuses. They only care about the code. And Tekashi broke it. From Chicago to LA, from Brooklyn to Miami, the list of people Tekashi has clashed with is endless. Chief Keef and the Chicago drill movement, YG and the West Coast, Blood's Meek Mill, who confronted him publicly and accused him of being protected by cops. Everywhere he went, Tekashi left enemies behind, and Ariella, willingly or not, walked right into the middle of it. Even legends like Snoop Dogg, who openly mocked him for being a rat. Every feud stacked more hatred onto his shoulders, and each time he survived, the rage grew deeper. Think back to how Tekashi rose to fame. It wasn't just his music, it was his mouth. The endless call-outs, the taunts, the way he'd throw shots at entire cities and then laugh about it. Remember when he mocked Chicago drill rappers? He didn't just diss them on a track. He flew into their city, stood on their blocks and told the world they couldn't touch him. That's not artistry. That's suicide with a camera crew. Every time he opened his mouth, his enemies multiplied. But what made him dangerous wasn't just the trolling. It was the way he dragged everyone around him into the fire, Ariella included. When she joked on Valentine's Day about him being a rat, she wasn't inventing that narrative. She was echoing his own loud-mouthed behavior. That wasn't her original joke. That was Tekashi's entire brand. For years, he leaned into the rat persona. He flaunted it. He laughed at it. He even sold it as merchandise. And because he wouldn't shut up, she couldn't escape it. When Ariella repeated that joke, she wasn't just being playful. She was reinforcing the very image that made him the most hated man in hip-hop. And haters don't differentiate. They don't care if she was joking. They saw her as part of his mouthpiece and they responded with bullets. Tekashi walks with security so heavy it looks like a military unit. He brags about moving like a president. But Ariella, she was alone in a car on a Bronx road. That imbalance is why many believe her death wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. That's the perception. That's why people hate him. And that's why Ariella was vulnerable. Because being with him wasn't just romance. It was stepping into a crossfire where betrayal was the only guarantee. Tekashi himself practically predicted this. In interviews, he's admitted it himself. Betrayal isn't the exception. It's the rule. Loyalty doesn't exist. Everyone plays. Dirty eventually, the streets don't forgive. And yet he kept running his mouth. He couldn't strip away the conspiracy theories, the gang ties, the industry whispers, and what's left is simple. A man who never knew when to shut up. A man who turned trolling into a career. A man whose loud mouth didn't just destroy his own safety, it destroyed the safety of everyone he loved. So where does that leave us? If Ariella's death truly connects back to Tekashi's past, then the cycle isn't finished. The enemies he made in courtrooms, in the streets, and in studios, they're not gone. They're waiting. They're watching. And now they've proven they don't even need to touch him directly. They can take from him what hurts most. If they could reach Ariella, what's stopping them from reaching anyone else close to him? His friends, his family, even Tekashi himself, if his security slips for a single moment. This isn't paranoia, it's precedent. Look at his Instagram posts after Ariella's death. Yes, he called her his wife. Yes, he said New York would never be the same. But then what? He kept moving. He kept posting. He kept living like the same man who's been daring the world to test his gangster since the very beginning. The real tragedy isn't just that Ariella died, it's that her death might not even change him. And if that's true, then the storm isn't over. It's only just beginning.
And what I'm seeing in the comments is when people were saying that it got something to do with 6ix9ine. How can you automatically just say that? Like, certain things like that.
That's the stain he'll never wash off. Tekashi's enemies don't forgive. They don't forget. Now, with Ariella gone, they've proven just how far their reach extends. The disturbing footage wasn't just her goodbye. It was a warning, a message, that the war surrounding Tekashi 6ix9ine is still raging. And if Ariella Langosta's story proves anything, it's this. The people who stand beside him are always the first to fall. That's the true price of loyalty. The Bronx doesn't forget. And in the Bronx, nobody believed this was random. When word spread that Ariella had been found inside her vehicle shot multiple times in what investigators called a targeted hit, the streets lit up with one chilling whisper. This had something to do with Tekashi. Police haven't confirmed it. No one has been charged. But in hip-hop, perception is everything. And Tekashi's name has been tied to more betrayals, more enemies, and more blood feuds than most rappers survive in a lifetime. So, when Ariella's death hit the headlines, fans, bloggers, even his harshest critics didn't hold back. Tekashi isn't just controversial, he's a walking cautionary tale. A man who played gangster aligned with New York's most feared crews, and then flipped, the moment the walls closed in. Yes, he saved himself from a life sentence, but in the process, he branded himself forever as the industry's most infamous rat. And in hip-hop, being labeled a snitch isn't just bad for your image, it's a death sentence. Now imagine what that means for anyone close to him. Imagine being Ariella, the woman who not only loved him but laughed at the very thing everyone despised him for. Her Valentine's Day post wasn't just a cheeky caption, it was provocation, a step straight into Tekashi's battlefield, whether she realized it or not. And in the days before her murder, the whispers got louder. Threatening messages, DMs warning her to watch her back. Friends noticed she was more distant, more guarded. And then came the footage. That so-called last video now leaked online isn't disturbing because of gory, it's disturbing because of fear. The fear written all over Ariella's face. She looks into the camera like she knows this could be her final moment alive. Once you've seen it, you can't shake it. You can't forget the look of someone who knew. That's why people are furious. Because it feels like history repeating itself. Another life swallowed by Tekashi's endless cycle of betrayal, trolling, and retribution. But here's the truth. Ariella's death didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened inside the constant war Tekashi wages with nearly everybody. Think about it. He's feuded with Chicago drill rappers, traded threats with West Coast. Legends mocked some of the deadliest gangs on earth, and through it all, he's dared the world to touch him. Social media, every time Tekashi survived, every time he walked away, laughing the anger against him only grew. And Ariella wasn't Tekashi. She didn't have bodyguards. She didn't have federal protection. She was vulnerable, exposed, and worst of all, she was symbolic. Her death wasn't just about silencing one woman, it was about sending a message. A message to Tekashi that his actions have consequences and the people around him will always pay the price first. That's why this last footage matters, because it's not just a clip. It's evidence that Ariella's life ended, not because of who she was, but because of who she loved. This isn't just another celebrity tragedy. This is about something bigger. This is about how the rap industry, street politics, and social media collide to create a toxic storm where human lives become disposable. It's about how we glorify chaos until it claims someone innocent. Tekashi built his career by taunting enemies. Now those enemies are clawing back at everything he touches. Connect the dots if Tekashi himself knew loyalty was a lie. What chance did Ariella ever have? She wasn't protected. She wasn't insulated. She was living in a reality where Tekashi's enemies had already crossed lines, already broken codes, already proven they would play dirty. To them, Ariella was fair game. That's why her final footage doesn't just feel tragic, it feels inevitable. But here's the hypocrisy. The streets condemn Tekashi for being a snitch, yet the truth is, everyone bends the rules when it benefits them. Tekashi even called out rappers like Gunna for doing the same thing, but here's the difference. When Tekashi snitched, he didn't just cooperate, he bragged. He mocked the very culture that made him, turned it into entertainment and weaponized it for clout. And Ariella? She stood beside him, maybe out of love, maybe out of loyalty. Maybe just because she cared, but in the brutal world of hip-hop politics, that love cost her everything. The most chilling part of this story isn't even what we see on camera, it's what it represents. Ariella Langosta wasn't the first casualty of Tekashi's reckless life, and she won't be the last. The Bronx connection makes it even darker. She was found dead just north of the Bronx. That detail isn't random. The Bronx isn't just another borough, it's a battleground for Ariella. Tied to Tekashi to be murdered there in broad daylight? That wasn't coincidence, that was a statement. Some whispers even suggest her murder wasn't personal at all, that it was carried out by locals who didn't even know her. To them, she wasn't. Ariella the influencer. She was Ariella the girlfriend of Tekashi 6ix9ine, the snitch who made their borough look weak. And in their world that couldn't go unanswered, this feels like something straight out of a horror film. While fans argue about Tekashi's reputation, the brutal reality is that Ariella paid the ultimate price. Her death is part of a bigger pattern, retaliation, betrayal, paranoia, that has haunted Tekashi since the day he flipped on the very gang that made him famous. Because in those final moments, the footage doesn't just show a scared woman. It shows a woman who knew that being tied to Tekashi wasn't just risky, it was lethal. And if even the people Tekashi loves aren't safe, how long before the chaos finally swallows him too? Thanks for watching. Check out the other cards on the screen.